Hey everybody, I'm going to take about 10-15 minutes or so to kind of give you an overview of the new site and Squarespace. So, in case you're working on something and you need a little help, this hopefully will help you. And I'll post it in our tutorials. So, here is our IIDA website. This is the live site in, IIDA.ny.org. Everybody that has access will have access to a Squarespace account, which they will see. I made a duplicate of this, but this is the live website, and this is what you will also see. You'll see that it's not a copy, but rather just the live one. I like to make a duplicate sometimes just to have on the backside in case for whatever reason something, were to happen. You can do the same. It will only show in your profile, nobody else's. The only thing you'll see from login to login, for everybody is this one here, which is our live site. So what you're going to do is you're going to just hover over and you're going to click, anywhere on here. And that's what brings you to the dashboard, which looks like this. And you're going to see a couple things. You're going to see a little edit button. You're going to see over here, which is really important when you're editing. This is the desktop view, and this is your mobile view. And if you're working on a really large screen, I sometimes like to maybe work on a smaller, your laptop, because then you'll really see how most people might see it. Because if you're looking on a large screen, sometimes what looks really great on your large screen, when somebody's looking at it on a smaller screen or on a tablet, things might get cut off and not the same. So again, just keep that in mind. And also, your mobile view. Your mobile view is basically how your viewers are seeing it in mobile. So that's very important to make sure when you're editing to look at both before you go live. Okay, so here, this is our landing page, our home page. And really the only thing you're touching with all of this over here is pages. Everything else is set in stone, so don't touch. And it's kind of broken out, pretty self-explanatory. So we have our home section, which is this. We have our section over here, which is, the IIDA New York section, city centers, events, get involved, education, advocacy, action, and the linkable options underneath of it. So you see how that it's all right here. And then all the linkable items below it. So if you're kind of looking for something, like maybe you're looking for the leadership page, right? Well, there's your leadership page. Or if you're looking for the membership page, there's the membership page. These are all sections that are linkable, forward-facing. Anything that says not linked are things that you get to in other ways through the site, right? By clicking something else. So that's why it says not linked, but they are still live. So for example, let's say we want to go to the About page. You would click on the About page, and here you are. You can scroll down, you can see what it looks like, but maybe you want to change something. So that's where edit comes in. So, you kind of are hovering over, you click edit, and now everything becomes these kind of boxes, right, that say things, right? Pretty self-explanatory. So for example, don't ever touch the header, but if you wanted to say you wanted to change this word, or you wanted to change this image in the background, you kind of hover over, you would click, and then over here, edit section, right? So as you're on a section, it kind of follows you. So you kind of know, okay, that's the section I want to edit. So, okay, again, let's say we want to edit this section. We're hovering over. We're going to hit edit section. And then again, you're kind of getting some options. In this case, there's a video, right? So maybe you want to replace the video, or maybe you don't want the video anymore and you want an image, etc. So whatever you do, you replace that, and then, you would hit save. I'm just going to hit exit for now because I don't want to change anything. And then let's say down here, right? Maybe you want to change out the president's letter for next year or something like that. Again, simple enough. You just kind of click over the little pencil, and you can, kind of change that to, whatever it might be, blah, blah. You want to change this image out to something different, etc. Same thing here. I would just don't change formatting, for as much as you can. Just keep formatting the same. By formatting, I mean like what it's set to, like paragraph and all that. I'm just going to hit exit because I don't want it to save. But again, if you were editing something, like you were editing something from Kristen, the president, before you want to kind of look and make sure it looks okay. Because sometimes it might look great on your desktop view, but then all of a sudden you got here and this was like moved down, this was, I don't know, like maybe it was like here, and you're like, wait a minute, that needs to be, put in the right place. Because sometimes that will happen where it'll look different on desktop and mobile. So you just always want to make sure you're kind of checking both. Certain things kind of live and function on their own, the calendar being one of those. It's kind of happening on our widget on the external, so there's nothing here you need to change, unless of course you wanted to change like the image there. The events page, or the events section I should say, is this guy. So again, if you have a new image, you're really just kind of going into edit. Edit is really sort of like where you're going to be living when you change things. But again, keep things the way they're set up, right? So like if you were changing this image, you're just kind of hovering over it. Sometimes it asks you to do the pencil, other times it'll kind of pop up with that little edit section page. It's pretty self-explanatory. You're changing things. If you, let's say down here, let's say down here you wanted to, I don't know, maybe like now we're going to be coming to where we're going to have a landing page for this page. Let's just pretend, right? And you want to change the button to maybe be, instead of taking them to the event photos, maybe you want them to go to the to an actual page within the site. So let's say maybe you just want to keep this too, but you want to add another button. So if you kind of hover over, you're going to get this little add block. And then here, in this case, it's a straight up button. It's not a code button. So you can hit button. It's going to make this little button over here. And then you're going to kind of move it. You see like the little kind of grids, right? And you kind of line it up. And then here you kind of hover over it. And then maybe you say, maybe it's learn more. Maybe it's, get tickets, whatever it might be. Make sure you fix the sizing so it's the same as closest to the other box as you can. And then maybe you have a link. You want this button to go somewhere. It could go somewhere within the site. So maybe it's going to go to the color invasion page, right, that I've already created for you. So you could kind of click for it to go there, or maybe it's going somewhere external, like one of your Eventbrite, right? You want it to go to Eventbrite, whatever that link is. In that case, if it's external, then make sure you click open in a new tab so that it's taking you outside the site, but not refreshing this page. So that's how you could change up this. You kind of add things to it. Like for now, like this button and this button kind of take you to their individual page, right? So here's our leaders breakfast. Right now we have get tickets because it's an active live event. Down here is where some of the body would be. This is our little sponsor now button, which is a separate video on how to add these special sponsorship buttons. So again, in this case, maybe the event is over and you no longer want them to go to the Eventbrite link. So in that case, you could, maybe you say remove link, and now it just says, check back soon. Make sure you fix your box. And then remember, you want to check it on mobile, make sure it looks good, because sometimes it might be a little funky. So you want to make sure you adjust everything. And then that way when you save it, you know, this now will not take you to an external link. It'll basically just be a nothing button. There's no link there, right? It's just sort of like a dead click. Just exit out of that. So that's kind of another. I like to use this. Here's the color invasion page for when you are ready to use it. Right now, it's not an active, well, it's live if, essentially it's live, but we're not clicking anybody throughout the site currently, but eventually you will. And eventually you're going to have, your Eventbrite, get tickets, and you're going to have some cool images that maybe are supplied for this year's event. You're going to have a sponsor. So this is kind of made for you. So all of the main event pages have a page created that you can reuse and reuse. Color Invasion being one of them, Pioneering being one of them, Leaders Breakfast being one of them. So those are like the three main signature events. I like to use the test file page to just play around. So, you hit edit. If you hit Command G, that's on a Mac, Command G, you sort of see all these little grids. So it kind of explains to you how things are snapping to the grid, right? But, if you don't want to see it, you don't have to. I just, sometimes I like to, and it's just, actually if you just press G, I think it works on the Mac. And then that way you can kind of play around in here. So like you can kind of be like, certain things, look like as I'm playing around in mobile view, in desktop view, things to kind of keep in mind. So like let's just sort of you can actually do copy paste as well. So like let's say we copy and pasted this, and we just wanted a bunch of, random copy. I'm just taking some random copy. Kind of snaps together. And then you can kind of check and see what happened here. Oh, I don't really like the way it looks here. Maybe we just want to take one of these buttons away. And then this little guy, you can kind of play around with maybe you want certain things to copy, blah blah. You want to move it around. Sometimes you're going to get, like, maybe you don't want all this extra, space below, right? So in that case, you could click over, hit edit section, and the row count is what you would basically be making it less. Oops. That's not working. Let's do it. Let's say here, we don't want some of this black space. So edit section. Or maybe you want more, right? So if you kind of add it, you see how it's kind of adding more, and then you can kind of like take it away too. If you don't want it to fill the screen, right now fill the screen, but if you were like, nope, I want it to be like super flush up against here. So you can kind of toggle this little guy. So there's a lot of stuff that happens, within, if you're kind of wondering like, how can I play around with certain things? You can kind of like, play around with this. But again, you're always going to make sure you check over here too, because, it could affect, maybe you need some more space, or whatever, So that's kind of like why I like this test page to kind of like use to kind of play around and, figure things out. You might want to, again, you can do a lot of copying and pasting. So, but maybe you want to copy this lower down. You just make sure when you do a copy, then you make sure you're in the section that you want to paste it, because if not, it's just going to paste it back where you were. So here, now we're copying and pasting it over here. So now it's in that section, right? So that's one thing you just want to keep in mind when you're copying and pasting. Again, lots of fun stuff to play around with. Again, this is your test file. So this is where I like to just make things, sort of test things out, so to say, if you're sort of not sure, what to do. And then, of course, if you were to hit publish, it would go live, but, and you can, because it's not an active, no one's going to get to this, but so you do want to hit save, that's fine, but you don't want to hit publish, because publish will then make it a live site, and that's not really what you want to do. Some other cool things to do, which I like to show, is let's say you love the way something looks on the site and you want to use it somewhere else. So you love the way this looks, right? So if you click edit and then you hover over the section, you can hit this little heart. You're telling it, ooh, I love this section. So you click love, and you see down here, it kind of told you, ooh, I added it. But now you want to add it somewhere else. So let's go use our test file. And let's hit edit. And then as you see, when you hover, you're going to get these little add sections, right? If you want to add a section, let's say add section. And now go to your saved sections, and you'll see I've kind of made a couple things that I like. You would just click this and it adds it there, which is so much easier than having to recreate it. And then if like maybe now you don't want this piece anymore, so you hover over it and you can hit remove. So yeah, lots of fun here to reuse sections that you have no idea how they were made. And then that way you can just kind of go in here and edit these as you will. And I'm going to change the image, or I'm going to add a link. Right now there's no links, but if you wanted this to go somewhere, even in the text, you could like highlight the text, click the little link. It can go somewhere external, or internal. Usually if it's going somewhere like external, it will ask you to, you see it? It will ask you to open it outside. Otherwise, if it was going somewhere internal, like, there is a Leader's Breakfast page, then you could go and you could click here. And then that way it would just, you can hit save just so that you can kind of like see what, how it would function. And then you can hit exit. So that way if you were like, oh, let me test it out, now you click here and it's showing you, okay. So that's a good way to reuse things throughout the site without having to copy and paste, because sometimes, copy and paste for sophisticated things doesn't necessarily work. And what else? Some of these things have their own little how-tos, like in the press. If you wanted to redo the member spotlight page, you would change whoever name it is, whatever their title is, read more, keep it to where it's indicated, because it's going to bring you to a page that I'll talk about next. You can change out Alex's photo, and then now you want to go to her page, which is member spotlight, and then here's where again you would edit her picture and all this information, her fun facts, make it to whoever the next member spotlight person is, and then hit save. So really it's just about playing around. If for whatever reason, let's say you started, you're in this page and you started, making some changes, and oh my gosh, I accidentally deleted something, and you're like, I don't know how to get back. How do I not get back? How do I get out of here? All you got to do is hit exit. Just don't hit save. Just hit exit. Do you want to exit without saving? Yes, because I messed up. Exit, right? So nothing's changed. So that's kind of a way to kind of like get out of something if you're like, oh my, I don't know what I just did. But anyway, just peek around, and if you have any questions, I'll continue, adding new content. But again, this is really where you're living, this pages section. And again, remember, always look on both mobile and desktop. Make sure you save. And then you'll basically see it live when you go to the site. Okay, thanks.